Hello and welcome to the latest in the summer series here on Back of the Net. Well, after last night, I'm not feeling particularly summery, I have to say. And the weather today, especially this morning, seems to have mirrored the mood of the English nation after our loss to Italy on penalties. Look at this in Bournemouth Garden. This is a video from Alex Deutsch. Absolute scenes. And as he writes, the floods of water are only partially made up of his tears, and no doubt everyone else's too. Well, on this show, of course, we'll mention what happened last night, but naturally there's a healthy dose of AFC Bournemouth content too, loads to talk about. So it is a pleasure that you could join us here this Monday night, and we've got an absolutely packed show for you. We've got guests, we've got laughs, somehow, and also we've got fans on too, plus lots more besides. Here is what's coming up. So we have to sadly talk about England's agony. It was heartbreak as Italy beat the Three Lions on spot kicks and a chance to go over proceedings. After that, we've got a fly-on-the-wall view of Scott Parker's first presser with Jacob Tanswell from Dorset Live. Really interesting stuff. There's lots of player activity at Dean Court, with more expected to happen over the next few weeks. Adam Smith has committed, Junior Stanislas still in the mix. Ajani Burchall is off to Villa for a substantial fee, and there was a derisory offer for Danjuma. We go over the latest, plus plenty of rumours to talk about too, not least Steve Cook. What's going on there? Some very strange tweets, I've got to say. Lots of rumours to talk about. We've got the Cherries Supporters Experience Group 2 with Robbie Sargent and the Golf Day as well. It's an action-packed show here on Back of the Net. And the person to bring along for this, surely, is this man. It's Jeff Hayward. Jeff, how are you?
Yeah, a bit flat like the rest of the nation. But there you go. This is the thing to cheer me up, Sam. That's for sure.
But last night, look, England fell short and it was penalty heartbreak. Explain your emotions this morning. It feels still very raw, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, it was disappointing. I think we all felt that this was England's chance. The run to that final was as good as it possibly could be. And Italy were vulnerable. We talked a lot about the ageing centre-halves, but we didn't really test them, I didn't think, last night. Aside from that first sort of 10, 15 minutes when we were very good, we came up a bit short. And, not sure that those two central midfielders is going to be the way forward to win tournaments in the future.
Do you think we paid them a bit too much respect? Because Italy, yes, they have been the favourites, but they've not been excellent in all their matches, and there were some that they've scraped through. It was a penalty win in the semi-finals over Spain, and look, they've got ageing central defenders, as we know. We've got a lot of attacking flair, but it seems to be a lot of people are in agreement that the manager that we've got is playing in a style that maybe doesn't tessellate with the squad that he picks, because all that flair on the bench, yet it was used late or not at all.
Yeah, and I think some of the criticism that's been levelled at the coaching team and the management team and how they utilised the talent at their disposal is deserved. But more than that, I think it was the mindset of the players last night. You know, that first 15 minutes was exceptional. But then the occasion and the kind of pressure of the situation meant it was safer, easier to be more conservative and cautious and timid even in that second half than really the game deserved. We needed a second goal. We didn't play in that way again for these remaining 75 minutes. And that's what's disappointing, that they were obviously capable of worrying Italy, and we had them under the cosh. I mean, they were arguing with each other. They couldn't get through us. It was fantastic, but we just eased off them far too much and conceded much too much space. Invited them onto us. They got confidence. Chiesa, their star man, was when he was moved into that more central role after Immobile got subbed. That gave us all sorts of problems, and we couldn't really cope. And I feel frustrated. I feel there was also a sense of inevitability about it, because that's the 9th penalty shootout I've seen in my lifetime. We've won 2, and it's not a great track record, is it? We still could have won the penalty shootout, though, couldn't we, Sam? Jeez.
Well, that's right. I mean, ultimately, it came down to pens against the tournament favourites, and if we'd have won, people wouldn't have been unpicking the match to the degree that they are this morning. I mean, I've seen absolute dog shit AFC Bournemouth performances where we've won games, and you don't worry about the poor showing so much when you get the 3 points, or in this case, the win, although we didn't. I think mentally there was a lot on the players. I think even though they say there wasn't, I think the sort of burden of responsibility 55 years after our 1966 win in a Wembley that sounded packed but wasn't. I mean, the atmosphere before the game was amazing. It was so good to see even some Bournemouth flags inside the stadium as well. Really good to see. And, there was that expectation. Do you think taking the lead so early was probably one of the worst things that could happen? Because obviously we all jumped off our seats when Shaw put that. I mean, what a goal it was. Really good. But it was so early. And knowing the England that I know, it happened under Capello, it happened under Steve McLaren, it happened under previous managers. When we take the lead, we sit back.
Yeah.
And it happened again.
Agreed. Scoring early is not a good thing for us, and certainly wasn't last night. Fantastic goal. Sure, what a finish. I mean, that was exceptional. And it took me right back to that semi-final a couple of years ago against Croatia. We score in that was the 2nd or 3rd minute when we got that free kick. Another fullback, funnily enough, scores. And, from there, the game kind of drifted and went backwards. We didn't get that second, and the same happened last night. In fact, I think that was our only shot on target till about the 70th minute or something, which is not good enough. It's not good enough for the players that we had on the pitch. I think Sterling has been exceptional in this tournament, but we didn't get the ball to him enough last night, and when we did, he was crowded out quite easily. I think it was a lot of pressure on Saka. I think Kane, aside from that first half, looked a bit off the pace, and it doesn't help Harry Kane if your out ball is lobbing the ball to Kane from 40 yards away and expecting to beat Chiellini and Bonini in the middle.
Yeah, I thought that he was particularly poor yesterday, Harry Kane, and technically, I know that there's a lot of attention on Southgate himself, and possibly rightly so, but I felt technically some of the players were just not up to scratch last night. The ball was just bouncing off them. Harry Maguire was kicking out of play every 2 seconds, and we didn't seem to connect as well as we have done in previous games. And a lot of people will say that our performances generally actually have been more underwhelming than overwhelming. I think that Ukraine performance was one of our standout ones. I've got to say, even the last 5 minutes against Denmark in the semi-finals where fans were olaying, I thought the game management there was really good. But yesterday, you saw the shape of the team, as you said, with 11 players behind the ball. We needed an out ball. We didn't have it. And I'm sure Southgate is looking back at this, and he even has admitted himself that he's made mistakes. But, you're either, after the game, you're either one of these people that wants to show gratitude straight away, which some people are, and I get that completely. And look, I'm one of them as well. It was an incredible campaign. I think we could have performed better on the pitch, but Southgate has brought the players together, and the players have shown, as Gary Neville has said, the players have shown. Look, they feed and educate our children. They challenge and stand up to racism. They donate plenty of cash to the NHS. They showed support to the LGBT plus community. They've done so much for us. And it's an England that we can be proud of. Just sort of imagine if they lived in a country where the government was able to feed the kids and the footballers could just play football instead of getting all political. But hey, that's where it is. But we should be proud. We should be proud. But there is a balance, isn't there, Jeff? There is a balance in terms of showing that pride, praising the side, but also analysing what went wrong as well, because there were things that went wrong. And Southgate, as I said earlier, he could consider himself culpable for some decisions that, Jack Grealish, a lot of people, including yourself, were calling for him to come on earlier, weren't you?
Yeah. As soon as they score, they equalise. I think we need to then change. We needed to get Grealish on. We need to be more adventurous and attacking, and instead, the move was to replace Trippier with Saka, which okay, that that sort of changed the 4-3-3, but I didn't think that was enough. That's still saying we're going to have 2 holding midfield players in the centre, and we didn't need that, and particularly we didn't need that after Chiellini went off. I think anyone who loves football will know, on the one hand, great, they're a relatively young team, and it's fantastic they did as well as they did. But you will also balance that by knowing, when are we ever going to have an easier path to the final than we had? How difficult is it to get to finals of Euros? I mean, Euros is more difficult, I think, than the World Cup, because of the quality of the teams that you are bound to play.
Yeah.
And we are just falling a bit short when it's all in our favour. And I think when it's not all in our favour, who knows what the draw is going to be like in 2022 at Qatar or the next Euros. You know, we might end up like Italy did, playing Belgium and Spain. You know, and that's the sort of luck of the draw. I think Italy deserved to win that game because they played better than we did, and you should applaud them for being professional about it. Yeah, you know, the game management that they executed, I thought was a little rugged, you know, back to the old Italian style, but they got the job done and they won the game, and good luck to them. We could have, should have, nearly did, but you know, it's like the life of Bournemouth fan, isn't it?
It is.
That's what it was like last night. So we're used to it.
I'm used to it. And you know what? Sometimes in life, I think you have moments which change your outlook on things forever. And I think being a Bournemouth fan has actually played its part in how I support England, because I think I look at football a lot different now in life. I've almost managed to put it into a box. You know, in life, I have my hobbies, I have my football, and then when I open that box of football, I know full well that when I open it, it's a box of unpredictability, especially with AFC Bournemouth. I've learned to get used to that tumultuous nature of it. And I ride the highs, I hate the lows. And for AFC Bournemouth, of course, I've got to talk about it afterwards. But, you know, it's a drug. And for that reason, I love it. And I do probably err on the side of positivity. Look, I've seen a lot of debates between even AFC Bournemouth fans on Twitter with regards to the criticism. Should we be overly critical at this stage? I think there is a place for criticism, of course, but my immediate sort of emotion, as I said, was gratitude. And I probably err on the side of positivity, because you've got to enjoy the highs when they land at your feet. Whilst the performances perhaps weren't perfect, you've got to enjoy it. And I know it sounds a bit dramatic, but you might not have it tomorrow. So the worst thing throughout a tournament is to get really sort of analytical and looking into it too much. And then when you win at the end of it, then you look back and think, I wish I'd celebrated harder. But now is our time where we can look back and say, look, you know, this is where we've gone wrong. And there's no harm in analysing the team that you support, even after victory, is there? And there are some improvements that could be made. And I think Southgate's game management has been good up to a point. But, you know, you can see even in our marginal victories, like the 1-0 victory over the Czech Republic, we could have played and done a whole lot better, but we got the 3 points. So it's almost forgotten about. Now's the time to look back and think of those matches and think, actually, where could we do better?
Yeah, it's the bravery of the team selection, the tactics and performance, I think, that Southgate will look at. And I talked about the Croatia game, the semi-final, a couple of years ago. Actually, I think Southgate's improved as a coach since that tournament. We were definitely better this tournament. We were harder to beat, which was part of the issue, which is good. It's just getting all the jigsaw pieces in the right place so that the team can express themselves better as an attacking force. And I think that's the trick he's got to pull off. You're right about that Ukraine performance. That was great, but there were a couple of those goals were set pieces, which is obviously what we're good at. So, you know, we need to be realistic and recognise that there is still a way to go. It is a young team. Southgate's a relatively young coach. He's going to have learnt from this experience. We should be better, but it's going to be flipping difficult to get to another final in the Euros or to the World Cup again. And we just need to be resolute about that, reasonable about it, and recognise that we may not get there again. But heck, you know, fantastic goal from Shaw, fantastic penalty save from Pickford. That Jorginho was outstanding.
And it just came down to kicks. And look, Results for me, because as I said, if we'd have won this, it would have been completely different. Results for me trump performances in when you win. And I think the Italians know that more than anyone. I mean, they've got 4 World Cups to their name, and especially in the last World Cup they won, I think in 2006. I remember them not being particularly convincing. They drew with USA. I think they got a dodgy penalty against Australia in the round of 16, and it wasn't Flair that won them the game. It was their game management. And Southgate, I think, tried that technique, and it worked for the majority of the tournament. But for one kick, it didn't work last night, and so you can see sort of people's points. I think, like I said earlier, if we're going to decide going forward to play in this kind of style against the better nations, then surely we should be having a squad where the attacking sort of talent doesn't tessellate with the way that Southgate wants to manage the game. Because when you've got all that talent on the bench waiting to come on, and Southgate wants to play in a different way, you can see why fans are getting a bit tetchy. I mean, so do you think we're progressing? Do you think,
Yeah.
and will we see a tournament win in the next 10 years?
That I couldn't tell you, but we're definitely progressing, and it's just whether we're progressing fast enough or quickly enough for the next tournament. I think Foden is a big miss. He was a big miss last night. Whether we would have played him actually is another matter. But actually, he needs to be the fulcrum of our midfield. I think an attacking-minded player who can do what he can do is going to be a great asset. We need that kind of Messi-like figure in our team who can unlock defences the way he can, and I think he'll be critical going forwards. We've got some fantastic young players. Some players still not past their sell-by date. Not sure about Harry Kane, whether he makes another Euros, but the rest of them, I think, are all in a pretty good place. We can grow from it. We can be better. Whether we win anything or not, though, is a different matter, because Spain are going to be hurting after this tournament, and they're going to come back stronger. Portugal the same. There are some flipping good teams in Europe. We did well to do what we did. Whether we can do it again is football's a game of luck. If the ball runs for you, you get a penalty in the extra time against Denmark. If it's not, you don't, and you end up losing on penalties.
I think the overriding emotion for me is being proud, and I certainly am proud of what happened. I'm one of these people that when we've lost, I cannot watch any replays of it. I mean, I might look at the Shaw goal, but after that, I'll be pressing stop and I'll be moving on to another video on YouTube, because I don't want to see it, because it will bring back pain that, to be honest, I don't particularly want to feel. One thing we can be proud of then is the team and the way that they carry themselves. One thing we cannot be proud about is some of the scenes that we witnessed both before the game, with fans breaking into Wembley Stadium, some horrible scenes in Trafalgar Square, shop windows getting smashed in afterwards. Someone chucked another fan in the river. There was fights on the street, all sorts of nonsense. And then online, that horrible element, disgusting racism of the lads that miss penalties. I mean, it's unbelievable, Jeff. It's horrible, isn't it?
Yeah, outrageous, and part of whipping up hysteria to the level that we did in the last few days means you're more likely to get that sort of outcome. I mean, people gate crash in Wembley to get in. I mean, what are people thinking? And we're talking in a time of self-responsibility as well. Really? Yeah. I think the abuse, appalling. Absolutely appalling, and whether we like it, and most of us don't, England fans do carry an element who behave like that. Makes me ashamed. Booing the national anthems, I think, is pathetic. Why do we do that? And we did it again last night. It's just get over yourselves, people.
But we've had this reputation for absolute ages, Brits abroad, well, especially the English abroad, and, Magaluf or whatever, we've just got this kind of horrible mentality. And look, in Russia, 2018, we didn't have as much as that, because they probably know that their heads were going to get kicked in by the sort of local yobs if they did, cause any hassle. And it was relatively trouble free. But in our own backyard, it was absolutely disgusting. And then the social media people, I put on Twitter today that, obviously these people need to be educated properly. But social media companies, once again, they basically shook hands with the racists last night by just enabling them to be able to do this. There's a continued lack of action, and it just smacks of like, well, why should we stop racism if we get a few clicks for it? Because that will help our ad revenue. Like, I don't understand how websites like Wikipedia manage to block and change any content in a matter of like seconds, minutes, whereas Insta, it's almost like they make a cup of tea, put their feet up, and then do nothing about it. I've said before, verify the users, even with a phone number, and I know there are ways around that. You can buy pay-as-you-go phones that have got no, people would have to be bloody motivated to be able to do that, and then write all this racist stuff on like Insta pages for like Saka and Rashford, etc. I've said, as a web developer, simple code changes in the algorithm to like red flag when you've got 3 monkey emojis in a row or whatever, or certain words being used, and just hide those remarks until they can be approved. And I'm sure 9 times out of 10 they can't be approved. They need to react quicker, and also they need to be transparent with regards to how they are iteratively trying to improve what they're doing, because at the moment they've just got a page on the website that sort of says this is what we do, but they need to be doing more and more and more and being transparent with how they're making it a safer place. And even they should be publishing stats on the amount of racist comments that they've removed, and all that kind of responsibility that they should be taken, but they're not. I mean, this is England 2021, Jeff. It's not very good at all. Not very good.
It's appalling. It's shameful, disgusting. The more they can get rid of these people, the better. Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. Right. So to the football, here's what you guys, this morning we put out a tweet saying, explain how you feel with a GIF. And this is what you guys have been saying today. So a lot of mixed reaction on Twitter there, and sadly it wasn't to be for England. Hey, but there's always Qatar in 40 degrees temperatures in 2022. Cannot wait for that. Right then, let's move on to AFC Bournemouth stuff now. And last week, Scott Parker gave his first press conference in front of the media, albeit it was done via Zoom. However, it lasted for nearly half an hour, and there were questions from all sides of the media. One of the journalists who took part was Jacob Tanswell, who works for Dorset Live, and Mr. Tiggs caught up with him to gauge his opinion of Parker's first presser.
Fantastic. Jacob, thank you so much for coming on. For anyone who doesn't know much about you, could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, I started my role for Dorset Live, which is a continuation of the Reach umbrella. I don't know if you know about Hampshire Live. They were there last year covering the likes of Southampton and Pompey. Reach also, they cover the likes, they have Daily Mirror, OK Magazine. So they've got a lot of, newspapers and magazines. So they decided to extend it for a regional title in Dorset now. So Bournemouth are going to have some coverage, and I'm going to be the one providing it.
And I noticed that there's Dorset Live, there's Cherries Live. Are they different things? Are they the same thing? What's going on there? Sorry.
Essentially, they are the same thing, but Cherries Live is just so you can get the AFC Bournemouth news, where Dorset Live will be, the journalists covering all the news from the county.
Fantastic, brilliant, and obviously you've come to Bournemouth, new manager straight off the bat, Scott Parker, and you said actually you thought his first press interview was quite impressive. What did you make of him? What did you think?
Yeah, it was it's quite a long one. It lasted about an hour, and for a press conference, usually you're not used to that. You're probably going 20, 25 minutes usually, but throughout the press conference, you saw his ambition, and there's a reason why he came from Fulham. Many people see it as a sideways step, and maybe it will turn out to be that. But you see it, Scott Parker, and you see a man that's got ambition. I feel it will revitalise the club, because you look at Bournemouth and they've had the same management staff, the same coaching staff, the same feel around the place. And you see Scott Parker coming in, and you see he's got these different demands. He talks about changing habits, so about the fitness regimes, the way of playing football. I think Scott Parker was just really, really impressive, and I think that's going to translate onto the players throughout the season.
That's really positive. He does speak about, when he was in that press, about building a project, doesn't he? And having long-term goals. Did he give you any kind of further indication of what that might mean? Did you get a feeling for what a long-term goal would be for Scott Parker?
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why he left Fulham, because I don't think he saw a long-term project or a pathway. I actually asked him about the academy, and that'll be out in a couple of weeks' time. But he's been speaking to the likes of Joe Roach, Sean Cooper from the under-23s and down about perhaps using the youth in this season and beyond. So you definitely see there is a long-term project there.
And he does seem like a man who's willing to take on advice. And we do wonder how much advice he got from his brother-in-law, Harry Arter. Did he speak about that at all?
Yeah, they mentioned Harry Arter. It's funny because I think about 10 years ago, I was actually in the stands for one of the Bournemouth games, and about 3 rows behind me was Scott Parker and his wife. So he's been going for a long, long time. And apparently Harry Arter just said, he couldn't say enough good things about Bournemouth. So I think that's one of the reasons why Scott Parker was, really interested in coming here and, let's be honest, taking a little bit of a risk in leaving Fulham.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the players that he was impressed by at Fulham, he signed for Bournemouth straight away. He played against him, and that was Marcondes. But at the presser, he talked about having to add more quality because we've lost about 6 or 7 players. Do you think he's going to be going for free transfers like Marcondes, or do you think there'll be a having to lose a player to sign a player? Any idea there?
I think the free transfer period's probably come and gone now. I think all the free players have probably been snapped up, but he talked about being flexible and being clever in the market. So him and the likes of Neil Blake will have to look at, loan signings, maybe what happened last year with Carter Vickers, players that are reasonably cheap for their potential, because Scott Parker's looking to develop these players. But I do feel probably Bournemouth will have to lose a couple. The likes of Danjuma or David Brooks, I think they have to maybe make way if Bournemouth are going to spend anything, really.
You were given an opportunity to ask him some more questions as well. Is there anything you haven't asked him yet that you'd like to know more about?
There is a couple of things, but I don't think I should have done it in the introductory press conference. But I really just want to know about the playing style and the way of just implementing that, because you looked last year, I don't know, obviously you saw Tony better, Bournemouth football better than I did, but I looked at Bournemouth and I saw the 3-5-2 and I thought, they're going a bit more pragmatic this year. So I want to see if Scott Parker does bring this, aesthetically pleasing football into the Championship. And so I want to get a grasp of that. I don't know if he's going to keep the 5 at the back or is he going to go for a 4. But if he can implement what he did at Fulham in terms of how ball dominant they were in the Championship with Bournemouth, I think that would be really, really impressive.
He certainly talks a very good game, doesn't he, Jacob?
Yeah.
You've met a lot of managers now in your previous roles. How does he kind of compare in terms of his willingness to give you information?
One thing I picked up on is that every journalist he was speaking to, he always called them by their names. So you could just tell he was paying attention to the question, paying attention to who was asking the question, because there's a lot of managers that just go through the motions, but every single question, he was tilting his head and you really felt like he was listening. So I think that's something that's really important and probably shows you his attention to detail in a way. So compared to other managers, you see that slightly different, the way he would often refer to as in your first name.
One thing that Bournemouth fans are really acutely aware of is the fact that when Eddie Howe was our manager, Eddie Howe ran the ship. He was the captain, he was the cook, he was swabbing the decks, he did everything. And now it appears that under Scott Parker, there is a change of regime. There's a change of ways of doing things. Did you get any sense of that coming out as well? We've heard little snippets that maybe he's now, because he's been called a head coach rather than a manager. And a lot of clubs do this sort of thing. Did you get anything about that coming from him?
I looked at it and see throughout the discussions, because it's quite a lengthy discussion, wasn't it? Him coming to Bournemouth. They've been flirting for over a year now. Ever since really 2017, they earmarked him. So I do feel Parker will probably have a similar amount of control as Howe. Obviously, probably not as much because he hasn't built up, the credit in the bank that Howe did. But I do feel he's probably going to get a lot in terms of what the playing squad, the structure of the squad. Simon Francis has obviously come in, hasn't he, with Richard Hughes, so them two will probably be on the recruitment side of things, but Scott Parker's input I think is going to be crucial, and I do see him having more of an impact in the head coach role than some others.
Okay, that's interesting to know, because that's obviously a tricky thing. I mean, we know our owner, Max Deming, likes to take a kind of a back seat, really, in many ways. But one thing that he was quite strong on last year, very early in the season, as soon as we appointed Tyndall, was that he wanted to get promotion back to the Premier League. Now, at this early stage, do you get an impression about what a satisfactory finish would be? Because for me, that message is a bit muddled, because on one half, you kind of got, this is our parachute payments are dwindling, so you want to get up while you got the opportunity. But on the other side, we're hearing Parker talking about a long-term project. So what do you think would be a satisfactory finish for Bournemouth this season in the league?
I think the ambition has to be automatic promotion. He talks about long-term project, but that's not an excuse not to go up this year. I think the long-term project is about staying in the Premier League and being a sustainable football club in the Premier League. So, sorry, I think it has to be Premier League this season. I don't know about you, but I think playoffs is probably the minimum you'd expect, because let's be honest, Bournemouth has got a pretty good squad still. I know they might lose a couple, but they have got, international footballers. They've got Premier League experience. They've got leaders in that team. They've got a spine that's really solid and reliable, and especially in Championship football as well. I think that's going to be key. And if they can win these type of games that they obviously stumbled last year under Tyndall and just turn them draws into wins, I think automatic promotion is well within their reach.
Also, there are other clubs, though, that have come down from the Premier League, and there are a number of clubs that pushed us to the wire in many ways last season from the Championship. Who else do you think might be up there, Jacob?
I think it's going to be difficult. I just feel there's going to be this connection between Fulham and Bournemouth throughout the season. I think every time Bournemouth plays someone, I think you always look for Fulham score first of all. I just see them two just mirroring each other, and they've got Marco Silva, who's let's be honest, he's a Premier League manager. Lots of teams wanted him a couple of years ago, and he's now taking a step down to the Championship. So I just see Fulham as the competitor to Bournemouth, and you just going to be looking at them every single week, see if they slip up, and if Fulham drop points, you think, here we go, we're well in with a shout here.
Jacob, that's fantastic. And just finally, how have you found the football club to deal with? Because we talk a lot about the football club trying to open themselves up a little bit more to the supporters. I just wonder, coming from you, new into the role, how have you found them?
It's early days, but I've spoken to a good number of people at the club, and they've been fantastic. They've been great. I've spoken to some players. I've met some players. I've met a couple of the guys who work there, and they could not be more open about everything, because there's a lot of topics going on, a lot of things that are happening at Bournemouth, like the training ground, and they're really open and giving you detail and information about it, which I find as a journalist really, really helpful. So they're opening up, and it's just fantastic. It makes my job easier, having a club that responds to you, that calls, that messages you, having players that you can speak to openly on and off the record. For me, makes this job, as I said, really much, much better for me.
Fantastic. And just want to say thank you so much for coming on and speaking to us, Jacob. Do you think we'll be able to see you other presses? Will you come back and speak to us again?
Of course. Anytime you want me on, Tony, I'll be asking questions at every press conference. So anything that you guys want to hear or find out about, please let me know and I'll ask them questions. And how can people follow you, Jacob? Is there somewhere on social media? Yeah, so I'm Cherries Live. Obviously, he's on Twitter, but if you want to find my personal account, it's J_Tanswell on Twitter. Fantastic. We'll put a little link in the video description below later on. Thank you so much, Jacob. It's been wonderful talking to you. And I'm looking forward to watching what you have to say throughout the season. I know one thing's for sure, and I can guarantee this to you. Bournemouth seasons are never boring. So it's going to be an exciting one. It certainly will be. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So there you go. That was Jacob with Mr. Tiggs there, and we'll bring Jeff back in now. Quite impressive from Scott Parker, Jeff. It seems to be that the media folks seem to respect his answers, and AFC Bournemouth fans have got a bit more appreciative of him after an appointment initially, which I wouldn't say split the fan base, but some people were regarding it as an appointment that wasn't very overwhelming. But the more he's got into it, and the more you hear from him, the more you can be impressed. He's very articulate, talks a great game, and he's a likable bloke. He comes across very well, very professionally,
and there's a lot to like about Scott Parker.
Yeah, absolutely. And all we want to see is just how it translates onto the pitch. So, yeah, really good piece with him there. And do make sure you follow him on Twitter, especially the Cherries Live account, which is going to be updating you on all things AFCB. And it'll be a nice return for an independent journalist to be putting some tweets out on a Friday morning when Scott Parker does his presser. Right, time to talk about player movement. So we're going to split this into two sections. Firstly, it's the not the rumours. The rumours will come later, but the deals that have been done, or the offers that have been rejected, or the players that have moved from A to B. And one of the things we do know, Jeff, is that Adam Smith has signed a 2-year contract with AFC Bournemouth, extending his time with the club. It began over a decade ago. He is part of the Cherries squad that's travelled to Spain for their pre-season training camp, and it will culminate in a friendly with La Liga side Granada, which will be part of the trip. That's positive for us, isn't it?
That is. I think Smithy's been a great servant for many, many years, and is a utility fullback as well, plays left back or right back, which could be useful. Yeah, another 2 years, probably fine. And part of me is thinking he probably didn't get any offers, so that's why he decided to stay. But that's me being cynical.
You're not cynical, Jeff. You're not cynical. But I'll tell you what, though, what's one thing that is pretty handy is that he spoke of former Tottenham teammates Scott Parker, Matt Wells, Rob Birch, and he cited his long history with Scott Parker and those aforementioned people, the assistant head coach and the goalkeeping coach, as a major part of re-signing with the club. He said that it's helped my decision with them coming here, and with me already know them, I can get settled in easily again with them now. And he played with Wellesley and Birchie when they were in the reserves, and I was a bit younger than them, he said, but I always played up. So yeah, really, really good to hear. The other player that we're not sure of is Junior Stanislas. One that in my head, I'm a bit split on what we should do with him. What about you?
Yeah, a bit split. Great talent when he's fit. When he's not fit, which is a substantial part of the season, you're thinking, well, is he really a valuable member of this squad going forwards? Is he a reliable member of this squad going forwards? And that's jury's out, I'm afraid. So wouldn't be upset if he goes, but wouldn't be overwhelmingly excited if he stays. Sorry, but that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what you see. What do you think on chat? Let us know. Stay or go. Just put it as a one-word comment. We would love to gauge your opinion. Should Junior Stanislas stay, or would you be okay with letting him go? One person who we don't really want to let go, Jeff, that we know is going to go, is Arnaut Danjuma. And AFC Bournemouth have rejected a £13 million bid from Europa League winners Villarreal for the Dutchman. And that's a derisory offer, really, isn't it?
Not enough. I think it needs to be 25 million minimum before we get rid of Arnie. I think Arnie is fairly clear that he's up for sale and the club want to cash in. There's enough talk of other clubs being interested in him. I think Ajax have been talked about. He's talked about Leeds himself. There are other clubs, I'm sure, looking around, looking at him. But yeah, it needs to be double that, I think, as a minimum before they let him go. Will they get that? I don't know. Be interesting. But he's definitely earmarked for sale because he's not on the Spanish trip from what I could see.
Do you get the feeling, I don't know whether this is true or not, but the more that the sort of time has gone on between the end of the season and the start of the new season, it's almost like his value's going down. And I don't know what, because Buendia, fresh in the head, had a great season, went to Aston Villa. They paid a fortune for him, but it almost feels like the longer you leave it, you're sort of taking off $1 million each day. I don't know if that's right or not, but it feels like he's less relevant because he hasn't played so long and he's not fresh in the head anymore.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Definitely feels that he needs to be playing to be front of mind again. Mate, we need to cash in. We need some money coming into the club, I think, to get some new players in. So I'm sure they're working overtime trying to get a better deal than that one from Villarreal. But yeah, I can't see we can let him go for less than 25 million. It'd be a terrible move for us.
Yeah, I mean, I know that clubs are supposed to, they do tend to come in with a cheeky offer, but that was overly cheeky, I've got to say. Now, someone that we know has left the club is the youngster Ajani Burchall. He's joined Aston Villa again, who seem to be picking up a load of talent at the moment. And Cherries received a substantial undisclosed compensation fee. As ever, we never really know how much it is, but of course, he shot into the headlines in December of last year as he was named as a surprise substitute for the first team, having previously been playing under 18s football. And yeah, he got some minutes in that 5-0 rout over Huddersfield. It's testament to our academy that we can bring these players and get them sold for substantial fees. But it would have been nice to see him play a little bit more for the first team. But I suppose that that's the way it is.
I mean, he's highly thought of, but we don't really know too much about him other than that short sort of 10, 15 minutes against Huddersfield, where he did a couple of decent things, but it was difficult to form a judgment on how valuable, how good he actually is. I suspect that he'll do pretty well. Aston Villa have got some really good young players coming into their team. The coach believes in them and gives them a chance, so I'm sure he'll get opportunities. And he was... it was clear he was going to leave because he didn't want to sign a contract with us from about February onwards. So, his departure is not unexpected. I wish him well, and I'm sure he'll be very successful.
Yeah, I'm sure. And he was rumoured with Arsenal at one point as well. Yeah. Now, Arsenal's North London rivals, Tottenham, have reportedly set a £5 million asking price for centre-back Cameron Carter-Vickers. I know that there are a number of other clubs that are interested in purchasing him, but he's a player that, the more the season went on, the more we realised that we rely on him. And, £5 million, Jeff, what would you be doing if you were Neil Blake and co?
Where do you want me to sign?
Yeah, especially given the rumours that we are seeing about Steve Cook, which we'll talk about very, very shortly. It would seem absolutely crucial that we would have to sign him and build our centre-back partnership around him. It could be him and Mepham, for instance. We don't really know, and that's a scary thing at the moment, because if he went, Steve Cook, that is, it would mean like deals like this would need to be done. But he showed a lot of finesse in that second part of the season, didn't he, Cameron?
Yeah, rock solid. Definitely need him in the squad, and potentially even in a replacement skipper. Actually, I think he's that good. Totally reliable, totally dependable, and at championship level, he'd be quality, real quality.
Okay, so let's talk about the rumours then. Those are all the things that we know are happening, but there are some rumours, and there's always conjecture if you look around Twitter, social media, and the like. And look, Steve Cook, we don't know what's happening there, but he's not travelled to the pre-season camp. There was a leaked direct message with someone asking, why he's not there after he posted a photo of saying this isn't exactly Marbella. And then he said, left behind, mate, to the person that sent him a message. He's removed his defender from AFC Bournemouth on his bio on Twitter. So everyone is rightfully worried about what the hell's happening. It really doesn't look good. I mean, Lewis Cook's gone and he's recovering from injury. So if Steve Cook, had an injury, that there wouldn't be any reason why he wouldn't go. It's quite worrying, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm nervous as hell that he's on his way out, and whether that's some sort of disagreement with the new coaching. Maybe they just think he doesn't fit for what they want.
I would have thought that he was a Scott Parker type player, though. I would have thought that he's just a mould, but obviously not.
I would have thought so too, but we don't know what goes on behind closed doors, and maybe Cookie. I don't think Cookie would want to leave. Do you? I don't think so.
I don't think he would want to leave unless it's clear that he's not wanted, or there have been some disagreements. I mean, he posted on social media on Monday morning, seen running at the club's training ground this morning, and the weather was absolutely dire. Sort of contrast that with the sun and the warm climate where the players are at the moment in Spain. It's I don't know, all feels very gloomy, and it just compounds my feeling after that match last night. And he's I would be absolutely, I can't express, I'd be gutted, so gutted if he left. He's like the last of the originals, it seems. I mean, I know, Adam Smith, you can put him in that bracket as well, of course, but he's a player that just encapsulates and understands what it's like to be a Bournemouth fan, and to be like in and around the club, and it would be distressing to me. It really would. Yeah,
it would feel like the end of an era, I think, with him going, and we need to see what happens, what Parker does in terms of bringing in people, and I think maybe if Carter Vickers does sign, maybe that Cook going becomes more of a that feels like he's bringing one in to replace one going out. But honestly, for all that he's delivered to the club, it's not a pretty way for him to go, is it?
And as someone wrote on Twitter this morning, that I think it was Alex Deutsch actually, who said that it just feels like, I mean, he wasn't commenting on this directly, but it feels like a lot of our stalwarts that we've had have always left the club in some kind of, they haven't exactly had a guard of honour as they've left the club. It just feels as though they've been gone. It's been, I wouldn't say underhand, but underplayed a bit too much, and just really, really distressing that some of the key figures are just sort of exiting the club in this manner. Whether he's got another season at AFC Bournemouth, I don't quite know. One person that has got another season on his deal is Asmir Begovic. Now, we know that he's a high earner at the club, but he's on a Premier League wage. Bournemouth have got to decide what to do to keep a player that performed so well last season, trust someone like Mark Travers, who might even score a goal or two as well, or what. But there's been some interest grown in Asmir Begovic from clubs abroad, according to Jacob Tanswell on Cherries Live. What would you do?
I'd be inclined to say let's give Travers a chance. I think particularly with the sense that there is a new regime and a bit of a new broom coming into the club. Travers is a quality goalkeeper. I don't think he'd let us down. He may not be quite as consistent as Begovic was last year, but he deserves a chance. And Begovic is what, 37 now? It's another season for him in the Championship. I don't think could be too enticing. And if we get an offer for Asmir, I think he's got every right to go, and I would wish him well too.
And if Parker's trying to build a long-term project like it feels like he should be, you've got to be basing it around people that are going to be here for a long time. And, whilst we know that sort of goalkeepers can ply their trade into their 40s, etc., I don't think it'd be quite the right decision, given he's on so much money, I've got to say. So another player that AFC Bournemouth are rumoured to be looking to purchase, to loan, is Ben Davies. Cherries are battling Celtic to try and sign the defender from Liverpool. It would probably be a loan signing. He completed a shock move to Liverpool from Preston North End for a reported £1.6 million. That was back in February to ease their defensive crisis. But he's not really getting the game time for Liverpool, understandably so. And, we need someone to play at the back. And maybe Ben Davies could be that man. Do you know much about him?
We did try to get him for periods last season, and we got the other Ben instead. So, we picked up Pearson. I think Ben Davies is highly regarded. It was a surprise that he went to Liverpool, and I don't think he would have gone unless there'd been that injury crisis that they had at that particular time. But then again, he didn't get much game time at all, did he? So no. I think if we've got the opportunity to get him, let's get him in.
Yeah, give Jeff Hayward that checkbook, Jeff Mostyn, please. We've also been linked, this is just Twitter talk, but Huesca midfielder Kelechi Nwakali, and he's being monitored by the Cherries. Reported asking price of £15 million. The 23-year-old spent last year on loan at AD Alcaron. They are a Spanish football club, Huesca that is, in the second division. But he's been in the UK before because he failed to make the grade at Arsenal, and Leeds appear to be keen on giving him another shot at top flight football. But Bournemouth are interested as well. That is just Twitter speculation. We don't know much about that. But that concludes the section of the rumour mill, and stay tuned because I've got a feeling it's going to be a very busy time at AFC Bournemouth over the next 2 weeks, I've got to say. So, next, more Cherry talk as the fans meet the board. So last week, the minutes from the Supporter Experience Working Group meeting, which took place on the 30th of June on a Wednesday, they were made available, and we're actually delighted to have one of the group with us today. It is Robbie Sargent. Robbie, how are you doing?
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Sam. How are you?
Yeah, very good, very good. So this is really interesting, right? Because firstly, I think many supporters initially questioned why the club felt they need to create the group. What's your impression of why it's come about?
I think the club has actually recognised that maybe their communication with the fan base has not been the best over the last, maybe even going back 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Jeff Mostyn, who was at the meeting, I think made that point very clear, and he felt it was something that the club needs to be better at. So I think that's the driving factor. And look, when a club sort of makes that admission, it's great that they feel the desire to go and do something about it. And something that was mentioned actually within the meeting was just the amount of change that has gone on in the football club over the course, not just over the last year with Eddie departing, but just becoming a Premier League football club. What that meant for the way the I hate to use the word business because we see it as a football club, not as a business, but it's a very different animal now to what it was 5, 6, 7 years ago. And so I think this wasn't necessarily mentioned at the meeting, but I think that amount of change, that pace of change, maybe the football club have felt that they've just kept their eye off the ball a little bit, if you like, when it comes to that fan communication and fan engagement. So maybe there's been a period of reflection. Maybe there's been an understanding that actually now, this is an opportunity with a new management structure in place. I know we had that in place maybe a year ago, but there is maybe now a view that it's the time to get those fans back on board again and see what the football club can do to make that engagement a lot better.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Because obviously, when Eddie was at the club, we knew our club identity, but it feels as though obviously COVID makes it worse. But we feel a bit more distance from the club. So I think it is a great idea. And you're part of the group. What motivated you to get involved?
So I've been following the football club since the mid-'80s. So seen all the struggles, all the adversity that we've been through as a football club. The fact that at one point or a couple of points, it looked like we might not have a football club to follow, right? And I think I've been particularly concerned with the relegation from the Premier League and what that means for us. Realistically, we're not even really a championship football club, right? When you look at the size of the stadium, the size of the fan base, can we compete? How's that going to work? We've seen lots of football clubs that have been relegated from the Premier League and have just dropped down and down and down divisions. And I think I wanted to try and understand what the club how the club was going to be structured and what the club was going to do to maybe avoid that. And as a fan, understand the situation the club was in. And I think being part of this group, I hoped would enable me to do that, but also the frustrations that we've all felt over the last 4 or 5 years. Come back to that pace of change, right? Frustrations about ticketing, frustrations about, getting a decent pie, frustrations about queues outside the ground on certain cup nights and what have you. We've all seen that, and that's, I think, because of how the club has moved forward. And actually, what can I do to maybe try and change that, or get the club to understand what supporters think on a day-to-day basis? And also, I'm quite an active, person on Twitter. Not only do I put stuff out there, I read what other people put out there, and you can sense that frustration. And I always wondered, are the supporters getting the full picture? Do the supporters really understand what's going on? Whether that's because of their own, failures in reading stuff that the club puts out, or is it because of the failures of the football club? So I really felt it was an opportunity to understand a bit more about Bournemouth and understand a bit more about the people at the top table at the football club, and then maybe have an influence and try and then make life better, not just for me, but for others that, I know support the football club and spend an awful lot of money on supporting the football club as well, and don't necessarily get the experience that they expect to get from spending that money.
Brilliant to hear from Robbie Sargent there, and I thought it was a really great piece. And look, that was just 10 minutes of an extended conversation. So come back to our YouTube channel tomorrow, 4 p.m. We'll put the full 25-minute chat with Robbie on there, and promising signs, Jeff. And look, the club seem to be actively trying to bridge the divide between the fans and the board. And, this meeting and this regular group, if it happens 3 times a year, it can only be a positive thing.
Yeah, unequivocally, good thing, more of it, and good that they've recognised that it needed addressing and that they are positively addressing it. I thought it was very encouraging to hear that report.
Excellent stuff. Right, next, it's the Back of the Net Golf Day and a chance for your company to get involved. And seriously, it's going to be amazing. And it'd be really good if you can get behind it. If you're an individual, you can donate and enter for our prize. But also, if you're a company, there's the opportunity to sponsor a hole as well for the Brian O'Donnell Golf Day. We're raising money for Melanoma Focus. Brian O'Donnell, well, he meant an incredible amount to so many people. He was a brilliant husband, dad, granddad, son, brother, and friend, and is sorely missed by all. He was much loved in the football community, not least, of course, AFC Bournemouth, where he was a player but also a youth team coach for 4 years. Brian had to cut short his career due to ill health. Now, as a sufferer of melanoma, he was passionate in raising awareness of the aggressive type of cancer, starting in the skin, which can be dangerous as it spreads and grows so quickly. It's the UK's most rapidly increasing type of cancer, with around 16,000 new cases every year. That's 44 every day. Now, Brian, he had a heartfelt desire to be part of the Golf Day, promoted by Back of the Net, where money could be raised for his chosen charity, Melanoma Focus. It's an organisation which provides education, information and support on melanoma. Sadly, he passed away in November 2020. But in his memory, the Golf Day will go on, and we've arranged a star-studded event to be held at the amazing Dorset Golf Resort in Bear Regis with the support of Woodstock Legal Services in Poole, featuring Harry Redknapp, Tony Pulis, Matt Letizia, Graham Souness and more. Unbelievable. You get breakfast, you get a coffee, you play a round of golf, you have some dinner afterwards as well, all in the company of these sporting superstars. And if you want a chance of being one of 4 lucky winners, you simply need to donate a minimum of £5 to be involved. That counts as 1 entry. So if you donate 25 quid, that's 5 entries. However, if you can only spare a few quid, that's absolutely fine. You can put £2.50 in, £3, whatever, but that won't count as an entry, okay? Minimum £5. The date of the Golf Day is August the 18th, 2021. And you can gift the Golf Day to someone else if you wish, but we'll just need to sort that with you beforehand. So if you're not particularly into golf, why not donate to a charity and then gift a surprise prize to one of your nearest and dearest? As I say, You'll be greeted with coffee and a bacon roll. You'll meet your celebrity golf partners as you all go around the course together, and a caddy will be provided as well. Maybe some ex-AFCB stars of the past as well that we haven't mentioned. Brian O'Donnell, he was born in Port Glasgow in 1957, and he was first associated with the Cherries when coming through the youth ranks on the South Coast, though he would make his first steps as a professional with Bristol Rovers and at Blacktown City Demons in Australia, where he was actually twice named Australian Player of the Season. Returning to the club in 1982, O'Donnell was part of the squad that clinched promotion from the 4th tier in 81-82, and he would go on to appear for Torquay United, Poole Town, Salisbury, and many others before retiring. Back in the net, we're absolutely delighted to be supporting this, but your company can as well. It's an 18-hole golf course, and at each hole, we're going to be taking a photo of the players that are playing, and it can be emblazoned with your company name on the picture that's going to be shared around social media, and we're going to be mentioning all of the company names on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook page, on our Twitter, on our Instagram, on our audio podcast that listens to 2,000 people every week. That would be good. And also, it's a charitable donation, so it's tax deductible as well for your company. So if you want to be associated with a really good cause, it's £100 to sponsor a hole, and your company name will be next to one of the superstars. Look, we'll even get them to hold it up in front of them if you want. You know, that's great exposure for your company, right? If you want to do that and your company can sponsor, or you're an individual that wants to sponsor a hole for £100, email fans@afcbpodcast.com. fans@afcbpodcast.com, and we'll give you all the information you need to know. If you need to know the logistics over how many posts you're going to have, how many social media interactions you'll have with your company name on, don't worry, we can provide all that, but we'll make sure it's worth your while, and look, you'll have helped towards an incredible charity too. So you can enter if you're a company, sponsor a hole. There's 18 slots available, and it's £100 a pop for that. All the money is going towards Melanoma Focus and us Back of the Net. We're pleased to be the platform that can enable that. Plus, right? There's more. Also, check out these bad boy items. Yeah, one of them, a Steve Cook signed shirt. That looks a bit beautiful. It may be worth more given the fact that he could be going. Is he going? We don't quite know. But what we'll do is we are also going to have some kind of auction over the next month or so. Also signed football as well, and some other bits that have been kindly donated to us that we are going to raise money for the charity as well. So more info on that. If you want to talk about that shirt beforehand and you want it, send us an email, fans@afcbpodcast.com. We can have a chat, but stay tuned over the next week or so, because we will be providing you with a bit more information on how you can get your hands on that. Really good charity. And as I said, we're a very small YouTube channel. We were so pleased with the money we raised for Forest Home last year, and it equates to sort of £1 a subscriber. If we can do that, it would be really fantastic. And I know that Brian's family would be absolutely over the moon. So if you can help, we would really appreciate it. Amazing. The golf day is on August the 18th, and it's all in for a good cause. Remember to donate. We'd really appreciate it. But as I said, if your company wants to sponsor a hole and get loads of publicity on Back of the Net, on our socials and beyond, then get in touch, because you can certainly do that. 18 spaces available for that. Or if you're an individual and you just want to sponsor, you can certainly do so. Okay, any other business then? And AFC Bournemouth, Jeff, they're in Marbella. They're continuing their pre-season preparations. I think that he's taken a very young squad as well. Some of the under-21s joining the team. What fixtures have we got? I think we play Granada at the end of that. Elsewhere, there's an AFCB 11 that play Poole Town. However, whether that's associated with the club or just former players or not, we don't know. We need to look into that. We play MK Dons in the Carabao Cup, which is effectively a friendly a week before our opener against West Brom. And we want to see some more pre-season fixtures, don't we? Because, you know, we need a few of them.
We absolutely do, and we need to get them. We need to get them fixed up pretty quickly as well, because the season's going to start in less than 3 weeks now. It's not long at all. Not long.
Yeah, absolutely scary. There are some clubs that are very active in terms of arranging their pre-season friendlies, but also their signings as well. And our dearest, I don't want to call them rivals because they're not, but Watford, they've picked up Josh King, Jeff. Would be surprised if Steve Cook goes there at this rate, but Josh King going to Watford, he didn't exactly have the best of times at Everton, said he was lied to by Carlo Ancelotti. That itself is a story, but yeah, he's gone to Watford. What kind of player have they got? Tell Watford fans the two sides of Josh King that we witnessed.
Neil Dawson tells a very good line about Josh King, which is 1 game in 4, he's a world beater. And I think that's the sort of player that he is, really. I think that's very accurate, because he can be great, but invariably, you know, there are games where he turns up and you think, he's not all that, is he? And I'm afraid that's what makes Josh King an option from the bench rather than a starting striker. I think they've probably bought themselves a striker for a squad position. I can't see him starting. So good luck, Josh. But Watford fans, be prepared to be pleased 1 game in 4.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right, we've got a quick Nonny update for you. We spoke to Paul, who I've linked to on our Twitter account, that says he is home and is out of hospital, but he's not quite out of the woods yet. But he is far more comfortable now, and he's enjoying to be around at home. He can slowly walk around a bit and eating some more wholesome food, which is really good news. And his spirits are certainly higher than they've ever been. Although, yeah, as I said, not quite out of the woods. He's really pleased, by the way. This is a quote from Nonny that Smith has rejoined. He's going to do all he can to make the MK Dons Cup game in a couple of weeks. But it may be too soon for him. But certainly if he is back, like I said, don't be pressurising him into singing a song, because he's still not the best, but he's doing okay and he's on the mend, and that is the main thing. Finally, we just need to pay tribute to the former Everton midfielder, Jimmy Gabriel, who died recently at the age of 80. Of course, he was at Bournemouth too. He played 303 times for the Toffees, winning a league title and the FA Cup with the club in the 1960s. The Scotland international started his career with the hometown of Dundee, playing more than 220 games for our nearest and dearest Southampton, but also play for Swindon Town, Brentford and AFC Bournemouth as well. Very sad, Jeff. Did you ever see him play?
I did see him play in the 70s. He was a good player. Good friends with Harry Redknapp and Ted McDougall from that era as well. And in fact, fondest memories was when he formed part of the management team with Harry that got us promotion in the 80s. Harry talks very fondly of him, and he's very underrated, really good coach, really good player, and very sad to see that news.
Very, very sad. Okay, well, that just about wraps it up for this episode of the summer series. It's been an action-packed one, Jeff. Ultimately, one that's left us probably feeling more sad than not because of England and potential rumours versus Steve Cook, but it's going to be a busy old time, and hopefully the domestic football can take the pains away of that match against Italy. It was heartbreaking.
Can't wait for it to start, can you? I can't.
No, absolutely can't. And thank you for everyone that's been watching at home. Really appreciate it. Remember, if you want consistent AFCB content, this is the place to go to. So yeah, we're going to be here throughout the season, and remember to subscribe. And once you do, there's a little bell icon that basically alerts you to when we put out a new video. So I'd appreciate it if you click that, and also give this video a like at the same time. But Jeff, thank you very much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks. Up the cherries.
Up the cherries, and from me, Sam Davis, I'll see you in the next video.